Keep it going for Tom Sheave. And the Athenas for putting on this show every week. So I'm Art Sturtevant. I'm the comedian who wears a black t-shirt and jeans. I mean, what the fuck is this? This is like our comedy uniform. I feel like I'm at comedy Hogwarts, you know. An 8-foot prop comic's gonna, Harry, you're a comedian. I can see myself, oh my gosh, I hope I get Hedwig House. Hedberg House. Oh, fuck that up. That would have been funny. Hedberg, let's start all over again. Hedberg House. Because thank you. So you probably don't want to hear about not wanting to have Hermione dick jokes 101. Oh gosh, so it's official. I have an open marriage.
Nice.
Because I told my wife, I said, so you know, I'm doing all these comedy shows, and you know, you never know what might happen. There's all these beautiful women, and I might get some straight. And she goes, "You go, baby." So I'm gonna call it a yes. You know, I'm gonna turn 51 in December, and it's time for me to accept it. In the time warp of life, I'm the guy with the flip chart saying, it's just a jump to the left. Anybody ever seen Rocky Horror Picture Show? I saw that movie. Anybody ever gone? Really? To a show where they dress up? I'm doing this fucking joke anyway. So, Rocky Horror Picture Show, they dress up for it in a lot of very scandalous costumes, and I didn't know that. I was 20 years old. It was 1982, and a woman says, "Let's go see Rocky Horror." I said, "Okay." And I pick her up at her house, and she shows up for our date in lingerie. And I think, I'm gonna like her. But we go to this movie, and there's all this wonderful music and all this sexuality. And I'm thinking, you know, this is going pretty good. And we go back to her house, and it turns out she's into BDSM and submission. And those of you who know me, I'm kind of a nice guy, so I'm like, I'm going to try and do what she wants. So I'm like, I slap that ass. And I call her a bitch. And then I'm like, I'm sorry, are you okay? But you know, I keep trying to make her happy, so I pull out her crop and I notice it leaves a mark, and she's like, oh God, that was, where'd you go? And I'm like, where do you keep the Neosporin? I can't figure out submissives, because before that night was over, you know, I don't know what the hell to do with a submissive. I'm like, am I doing this right? She goes, it would not be appropriate for the master to be told by this one what to do. And I'm like, when did I end up in bed with Yoda? So, I'm going to close with a quick story. Happened some 20 years ago and 100 pounds ago. When I was in college, it was the last fist fight I ever got in. I worked at a restaurant till like 3 in the morning, and I was the shift manager, and I weighed 160 pounds. And I walk out, and there's a football player pissing in the parking lot. And I'm like, just don't do that. And he goes, I just did. What the fuck you gonna do about it? I'm just saying don't. Lord, I just did. What the fuck you gonna do about it? So I call the police. You know, I figure I can just keep out of his hair, and the police will come, arrest him, and it'll all be over. And the guy's cussing me out for like 15 minutes. finally, he's pulling away. And he looks out the window, and he says, "Your mother's a whore." Now, when they say that, you got to hit him. It's science. So here I am, right next to the side of this car. I'm like 160 pounds. The guy turns out it's 320. I found out because my boss had all their stats. You know, he's a big football booster. And I'm like, "Come on!" And, you know, we go at it a little bit, and he keeps throwing these wide hooks, and I'm ducking under, and I'm popping him, you know, and everything I'm throwing is landing. And he throws one punch and hits me, and I'm on the ground. And I get up, and I pop up, you know, and I'm like, 3 punches were thrown by him in that fight that actually connected. Every one put me on the ground. So I'm starting to realize pretty quick that I'm going to place in this fight. I might not take first. But I'm starting to feel like I got a pretty good shot at silver. And finally, you know, the guy starts trying to push me down between a couple of cars, and so I kick him. Bam! Right here in the mouth. It's blood spurting from his mouth, and the police show up right then. And I'm like, "Oh, lucky for you, man." And the police, you know, they noticed that I'm like, I've got like a little dirt on the back of my shirt, and he's like bleeding down the front of his face. And I was like, yeah, I was winning that one. But that was my last fight. And I want to thank you very much. You've all been wonderful tonight.